Generator, Operator, Destroyer, God, by Theron Collins. Legacy, Introduction. Before there was form, there was force. Before there was light, there was intelligence. Before there was creation, there was the Creator. Throughout history, humanity has searched for God in temples, churches, books, mountains, stars, and sacred places. Yet one of the greatest mysteries remains hidden in plain sight. God operates through three eternal principles. God is the generator. God is the operator. God is the destroyer. Every seed reveals it. Every season demonstrates it. Every life experiences it. Every galaxy obeys it. Generation creates. Operation sustains. Destruction transforms. Nothing escapes this divine cycle. The sun generates light. Nature operates through laws. Time destroys what has completed its purpose. The old leaf falls so the new leaf can emerge. The old season dies so that the next season can live. The old version of you must sometimes be destroyed so a higher version can be born. Do y'all hear me? Are y'all listening? Most people fear destruction because they misunderstand it. Yet destruction is often God's greatest act of mercy. A farmer destroys weeds. A surgeon destroys disease. A sculptor destroys stone to reveal a masterpiece. God destroys limitations so purpose can emerge. This book explores one of the oldest patterns woven into creation itself, not as religion, not as dogma, not as blind belief, but as a universal principle operating through nature, consciousness, scripture, and human experience. The same intelligence that generates stars generates ideas. The same power that operates galaxies operates your heartbeat. The same force that destroys worlds destroys fear, ignorance, and stagnation. When you understand generator, operator, destroyer, you begin seeing God everywhere. In your victories, in your setbacks, in your beginnings, in endings, in life, in death, in transformation. Nothing is random. Everything is participating in the divine cycle. And once you understand the cycle, you begin to understand yourself. Are y'all still with me? Chapter 1. God, the generator. Everything begins in the invisible. A building begins as an idea. A book begins as a thought. A tree begins as a seed. A child begins as a possibility. Creation always starts in a realm that's unseen. This is the mystery of the generator. The generator is the source, the origin, the first cause, the spark behind all manifestation. Ancient teachers understand this principle. Before anything could appear in physical form, it had to exist as potential. Potential is invisible power waiting for expression. Look around you. Every invention, every city, every airplane, every business, every moment, every civilization. Someone first imagined it. The invisible became visible. Let's talk about it. The thought became matter. The generator turned possibility into reality. This principle does not only exist in the universe, it exists within you. Every gene you have ever carried is evidence of the generator working through your consciousness. Many people spend their lives waiting for opportunities. Creators generate opportunities. Do y'all hear me? Many people wait for permission. Generators create pathways. Many people wait for circumstances to improve. Generators improve circumstances. The divine image within humanity is a creative power. You were not designed merely to consume creation. You were designed to participate in creation. Do y'all hear me? Every vision, every goal, every solution, every breakthrough begins with generation. This is why imagination is sacred. Imagination is not fantasy. It is the workshop of creation. Everything that exists physically was generated mentally before it appeared materially. The generator speaks through ideas. The generator speaks through inspiration. The generator speaks through intuition. The generator speaks through vision. Many ignore these whispers. The great builders of histories listen. The great innovators listen. The great spiritual teachers listen. The great leaders listen. The generator is always speaking. The question is whether we are listening. And when we learn to listen, we begin to realize that creation did not stop thousands of years ago. Creation is still happening right now, through us, through our choices, through our imagination, through our willingness to bring something into existence that was not here before. That is the power of the generator, and that power is one of the fine fingerprints of God. Chapter 2, God the Operator. There is a mystery that many people never stop to consider. Creation is impressive, but maintenance is miraculous. Anyone can admire a seed becoming a tree, but who keeps the tree alive for 50 years? Anyone can marvel at a newborn child, but who orchestrates the trillions of processes taking place inside that child every second? Who keeps the stars from colliding? Who tells the oceans where to stop? Who regulates the seasons? Who maintains the rhythm of life? This is the work of the operator. If the generator is the source of creation, then the operator is the intelligence that sustains creation. The operator says, "Let there be." The operator says, "Let it continue." Most people celebrate beginnings. Few appreciate the power required to sustain existence. Are y'all with me? A business can be started in a day. Maintaining it for decades requires operation. A marriage can begin with a ceremony. Maintaining it requires operation. A dream can be born in a moment. Maintaining it requires operation. The operator is the divine force that keeps systems functioning. Look at your own body. Right now your heart is beating. Your lungs are breathing. Your blood is circulating. Your cells are repairing themselves. Your immune system is defending you. Your brain is processing information. Your eyes are gathering light. Your ears are interpreting vibration. And most of this is happening without your conscious involvement. You are not commanding your liver. Are y'all with me? You're not directing your kidneys. You are not manually pumping your blood. Yet the operation continues, day after day, year after year, decade after decade. There's an intelligence behind the operation. Ancient wisdom traditions often spoke of divine order, not of God of confusion, but a God of order, a God of law, a God of structure, a God of operation. The sun rises, the moon cycles, the tides move, the planets travel their paths. Nature follows patterns. Patterns reveal intelligence. Intelligence reveals operation. Operation reveals the operator. Many people pray for blessings while ignoring the law that governs blessings. But the operator works through principles. Plant corn, corn grows. Plant weeds, weeds grow. The operator does not violate law. The operator expresses law. Gravity operates whether you believe in it or not. Do y'all follow me? The seasons operate whether you acknowledge them or not. Cause and effect operate whether or not you understand them or not. The universe functions through order. One of the greatest lessons a person can learn is that success is not merely generated. It must be operated. Health must be operated. Relationships must be operated. Finances must be operated. Purpose must be operated. A dream neglected eventually dies, not because the generator failed, but because the operation ceased. Many people have powerful visions. Few develop powerful systems. Vision generates. Systems operate. The dream is born through inspiration. The dream survives through discipline. Discipline is one of the language of the operator. Consistency is another. Patience is another. Order is another. Faithfulness is another. The operator teaches us that greatness is rarely achieved through dramatic moments. Greatness is built through repeated actions. A river cuts through rock not because of power alone, but because of continuous operation. A tree grows not because of one day of sunlight, but because of years of operation. A legacy is not built in a single act. A legacy is built through sustained operation. This is why many people admire successful individuals but misunderstand their journey. They see the harvest. They do not see the years of operation. They see the victory. They do not see the daily discipline. They see the masterpiece. They do not see the countless hours of work. The operator lives in the process, and life itself is a process. Every day the operator asks us a question. Can you remain faithful to what has been generated? Can you protect what has been created? Can you nurture what has been born? Can you continue when excitement fades? Can you persist when results are delayed? The operator is not concerned only with beginnings. The operator is concerned with endurance. The stars endure. The oceans endure. The mountains endure. The law endures. And those who learn the principle of operation begin to endure as well. Are y'all listening? One of the greatest misunderstandings about God is the belief that God only appears in miracles. But perhaps the greater miracle is consistency. The sun showing up every morning, the seasons arriving on schedule, the earth spinning with precision, the heartbeat beating millions of times, the breath entering and leaving the body. Again and again and again. Operation is the miracle most people overlook because it happens every day. Yet without operation, creation collapses. Without operations, dreams fade. Without operation, civilizations crumble. Without operation, life itself ceases. The generator creates possibility. The operator sustains possibility. And together they reveal another dimension of God. Not merely as a creator, but as a sustainer. Not merely a beginning, but a continuation. Not merely a source, but a living intelligence, continuously working behind the scenes of existence. The operator is active now. In every heartbeat, in every sunrise, in every growing seed, in every unfolding purpose, in every lesson, in every season. The question is not whether the operator is working. The question is whether we are learning to work with the operation. Because when we align ourselves with divine order, discipline, patience, and consistency, we begin to flow with one of the greatest powers in the universe, the power that keeps creation alive, the power that sustains purpose, the power that maintains life, the power of God, the operator. What God generates, God expects to be operated. A vision without operation becomes a memory. A vision without operation, a vision with operation becomes a legacy. Chapter 3, God the Destroyer. The moment most people hear the word destroyer, they become uncomfortable. They think of loss. They think of endings. They think of pain. They think of death. They think of everything they fear. But what if destruction is not the enemy? What if destruction is one of God's most misunderstood acts? What if destruction is not the end of creation, but the part of creation itself? Look around at nature. The forest understands this principle. Every autumn leaves falls from the trees. To an untrained eye, it looks like death. Yet the tree is preparing for renewal. Do y'all hear me? The old must release its grip so the new can emerge. The caterpillar understands this principle. Before it becomes a butterfly, its former identity must dissolve. The creature that enters the cocoon is not the creature that emerges. Hallelujah. Transformation requires destruction. Even the earth understands this principle. Volcanoes destroy landscapes, yet over time, the same volcanic ash enriches the soil. What appears destructive becomes productive. What appears devastating becomes regenerative. Nature is constantly teaching us a lesson many refuse to learn. Destruction is often preparation. The problem is that human beings become attached to old seasons, attached to old identities, attached to old beliefs, attached to old relationships, attached to old fears, attached to old limitations. And when God begins removing what no longer serves our purpose, we often mistake transformation for punishment. But consider this. A surgeon destroys a tumor. A dentist removes decay. A farmer uproots weeds. A sculptor chips away stone. In every case, destruction serves creation. The surgeon is not attacking the patient. The surgeon is preserving life. The sculptor is not attacking the stone. The sculptor is revealing beauty. Likewise, many of life's destructions are not designed to harm us. They are designed to reveal us. There are moments in life when the job ends, the relationship ends, the season ends, the opportunity ends, the chapter ends. And in those moments, people often cry out, "Why is this happening to me?" But a deeper question may be, what is this making room for? Every ending creates space. Do y'all hear me? Every release creates capacity. Every destruction creates possibility. A seed cannot become a tree a seed cannot become a tree while remaining a seed. Its former form must be destroyed. An old house cannot always be renovated. Sometimes it must be demolished so a stronger structure can be built. Likewise, there are versions of ourselves that must die. The fearful version, the insecure version, the bitter version, the limited version, the victim version, the version that refuses to grow. Many people pray for elevation while protecting the very mindset preventing their elevation. They want new results with old thinking, new blessings with old habits, new opportunities with old limitations. But transformation requires surrender, and surrender often feels like destruction. One of the greatest spiritual truths is this. Are you listening? God rarely destroys your potential. God destroys what is blocking your potential. Read that again. God rarely destroys your potential. God destroys what is blocking your potential. God rarely destroys your purpose. God destroys what is preventing your purpose. Pride, fear, arrogance, ignorance, bitterness, self-doubt, false beliefs. These are often the things standing between us and our destiny. Are you listening? And because we become comfortable with them, their removal can feel painful. But comfort and growth rarely occupy the same space. History reveals this pattern repeatedly. Civilizations rise, civilizations operate, civilizations fall. Yet from their ashes, new civilizations emerge. Ideas arise, ideas operate, ideas fade, yet new ideas emerge. The cycle continues. Generation, operation, destruction. Generation, operation, destruction. Again and again. Not as chaos, but as divine rhythm. One of the greatest fears humanity carries is the fear of death. Yet perhaps death itself is misunderstood. Everything in nature suggests continuation through transformation. Water changes form, energy changes form, matter changes form, the caterpillar changes form, the seasons change form. Yet the universe itself is a theater of transformations. Nothing stands still. Everything moves, everything evolves, everything transitions. The destroyer reminds us that performance belongs only to God. Forms change, bodies change, circumstances change, empires change, but the underlying intelligence behind life continues. This is why wisdom teaches us not to cling too tightly to temporary things, because everything visible is subject to change. The destroyer is not cruel. The destroyer is necessary. Without destruction, there is no pruning. Without pruning, there is no growth. Without growth, there is no expansion. Without expansion, there is no evolution. Imagine a garden where nothing ever died. Dead flowers would remain forever. Dead weeds would remain forever. Nothing new could emerge. The garden would become overcrowded and lifeless. Life requires release. Life requires transition. Life requires renewal. Life requires destruction. One day, Theron, listener, you may look back on the greatest disappointment of your life and realize it was one of the greatest blessings. The door that closed protected you. The relationship that ended redirected you. The failure humbled you. The loss awakened you. The destruction transformed you. What seemed like an ending became a beginning. This is the wisdom of the destroyer. The destroyer teaches us not to fear change, not to fear endings, not to fear transformation, not to fear growth, because every sunset prepares for a sunrise. Every winter prepares for the spring. Every cocoon prepares for flight. Every ending prepares for a new beginning. The generator creates, the operator sustains, the destroyer transforms, and together they reveal a profound mystery. God is not merely present in beginnings. God is present in continuations. God is present in endings. God is present in every phase of the cycle, in creation, in preservation, in transformation, in birth, in life, in transition. The same divine intelligence that generates worlds, operates worlds, and transforms worlds. And when we finally understand that truth, we stop resisting the cycle and begin flowing with it. For nothing real can ever be lost. it can only be transformed. What God removes is often as important as what God provides. The destroyer does not come to end your story. The destroyer comes to prepare the next chapter. Chapter 4. The Law of Cycles. Most people spend their lives trying to understand isolated events. A blessing happens. A setback occurs. A door opens or door closes. A relationship begins. A relationship ends. A season changes. And they ask why. But wisdom asks a different question. What cycle am I in? Because life is not random. Do y'all hear me? Life moves in cycles. The sun rises and sets. The moon waxes and wanes. The tides advances and retreat. The seasons rotate. The planets move in predictable patterns. Nature speaks one language repeatedly. Cycles. The universe is not operating through straight lines. The universe is operating through cycles. Everything that lives participates in recurring patterns. A seed enters the ground. That seed grows. The plant matures. The plant produces fruit. The plant dies. Its seeds begin the process again. Generator, operator, destroyer. Generator, operator, destroyer. The cycle repeats. The cycle is the lesson. The cycle is the teacher. The cycle is the evidence of divine intelligence. Nothing remains frozen. Nothing remains fixed. Nothing remains unchanged. Everything is moving. Everything is becoming. Everything is participating in a rhythm greater than itself. Many people suffer because they try to make permanent what was only designed for a season. They cling to moments. They cling to identities. They cling to circumstances. They cling to people. Yet life itself teaches movement. The river keeps flowing. The wind keeps moving. The earth keeps turning. The seasons keep changing. The law of cycles reminds us that change is not an interruption of life. Change is life. Imagine trying to hold on to spring forever. The flowers would eventually wither. The soil will become exhausted. The natural order would collapse. Even beautiful seasons must eventually give way to another season. This principle applies to every area of existence. There are seasons of learning, seasons of building, seasons of waiting, seasons of harvest, seasons of release, seasons of renewal. The challenge is that many people judge themselves unfairly because they do not recognize the season they're in. Someone in a planting season compares themselves to someone in the harvest season. Someone in a preparation season envies someone in a manifestation season. Do y'all hear me? Someone in a rebuilding season feels defeated because they compare themselves to someone in a season of expansion. But cycles cannot be rushed. Winter cannot be bullied into becoming spring. Do y'all hear me? Seeds cannot be screamed into becoming trees. Growth requires timing. Timing requires patience. Patience requires wisdom. The law of cycle teaches us to honor process. One of the greatest illusions of modern society is the expectation of constant upward movement. People want perpetual success, perpetual happiness, perpetual abundance, perpetual victory. But nature teaches balance. Day follows night. Work follows rest. Activity follows stillness. Expansion follows contraction. Every breathing, even breathing reveals the cycle. You inhale, you exhale, you receive, you release. Imagine trying to inhale forever. You would suffocate. You hear me? Imagine trying to exhale forever. You would collapse. Life requires both receiving and releasing. You hear me? Building and resting. Holding and letting go. I love you. The law of cycles is visible throughout human history. Empires rise. Empires flourish. Empires decline. New empires emerge. Ideas rise. Ideas spread. Ideas evolve. New ideas emerge. Technologies rise. Technologies dominate. Technologies become obsolete. New technologies replace them. The cycle continues. Not because life is unstable, but because life is alive. Anything alive must move. Anything alive must adapt. Anything alive must transform. Even our personal lives follow this rhythm. There was a version of you 10 years ago. That version of you generated dreams, operated through certain beliefs. Eventually, some of those beliefs had to be destroyed. A new version emerged, and the cycle continued. You're not the same person you were. You're the person that you become. The law of cycle teaches us that identity evolves itself. Many people fear change because they mistake change for loss. But often change is simply growth wearing a different face. The child becomes an adult. The student becomes the teacher. The worker becomes the leader. The learner becomes the guide. Nothing has been lost. It has been transformed. One of the most powerful realizations a person can have is this. Your current situation is not your permanent destination. It is a phase within a cycle. If you're in a difficult season, the cycle will move. If you're in a season of abundance, the cycle will move. If you're in the season of waiting, the cycle will move. Nothing remains forever. This truth can comfort us during hardship and humble us during success, because every season carries a lesson. Every cycle carries wisdom. Every phase carries purpose. The law of cycles also reveals something profound about God. God is not merely found in one moment. God is found in movement. God is found in process. God is found in unfolding. The Creator generates. The Sustainer operates. The Transformer renews. And through this eternal dance, existence continues. Many ancient teachers understood this. They observed the stars, the seasons, the harvest, the rhythms of life. And they realized that creation itself was a classroom. Nature was the textbook. Cycles were the lessons. Time was the instructor. And wisdom was the reward. The person who understands cycles stops panicking when circumstances change. They stop assuming every ending is a disaster. They stop believing every delay is a denial. They stop interpreting every challenge as failure. Instead, they ask, what is this season teaching me? What is this cycle preparing me for? What must I learn before the next phase begins? These questions transform suffering into wisdom, confusion into clarity, fear into faith. Because once you understand the cycle, you stop fighting life. You begin cooperating with it. You plant when it's time to plant. You build when it's time to build. You harvest when it's time to harvest. You release when it's time to release. And in doing so, you align yourself with one of the deepest laws of creation, the law of cycles. The law that governs stars, the law that governs nature, the law that governs growth, the law that governs transformation, the law that reveals generator, operator, destroyer is not merely three separate ideas, but one eternal process through which God continually expresses life. Every season has a purpose. Every cycle carries wisdom. What appears to be an ending is often the beginning of the next phase of your becoming. Are y'all still with me? Chapter 5. Decoding nature's language. Long before books are written, nature was speaking. Long before philosophers debated truth, nature was demonstrating truth. The problem is not that nature has stopped speaking. The problem is that many have forgotten how to listen. Most people see a tree. Wisdom sees a lesson. Most people see a river. Wisdom sees a principle. Most people see a mountain. Wisdom sees a revelation. Nature is not merely scenery. Nature is a scripture written without ink. Nature is a classroom without walls. Nature is a teacher that never stops teaching. The Creator has embedded lessons everywhere. The question is whether we have eyes to see them. Look at that seed. The seed may be one of the greatest teachers in existence. A seed appears small, insignificant, powerless, yet hidden within that tiny shell is the entire future. Hallelujah. A forest may be sleeping inside a single seed. Branches are hidden there. Leaves are hidden there. Fruit is hidden there. Generations are hidden there. Potential is hidden there. The seed teaches us that appearance does not determine possibility. Many people judge themselves by what they currently appear to be. Nature judges by what is possible. The seed says, do not confuse your present condition with your future potential. Then consider the tree. The tree teaches another lesson. A tree grows upward because its roots grow downward. The higher it rises, the deeper it must become. Nature teaches balance. Expansion requires foundation. Growth requires grounding. Elevation requires depth. Many people desire the fruit but neglect the root. They seek visibility without stability, success without character, influence without wisdom. The tree teaches that what is unseen determines the strength of what is seen. The roots matter. Character matters. Integrity matters. Foundation matters. Without roots, the first storm becomes a disaster. With roots, the storm becomes a test. Now look at the river. The river teaches persistence. The river rarely fights the mountain. The river flows around it. Yet over time, the river craves canyons through stone. Not because of force alone, but because of consistencies. The river teaches patience. The river teaches adaptability. The river teaches movement. Many people become stuck because they stop flowing. They become attached to one path, one idea, one identity, one method. Yet life itself is fluid. The river reminds us that flexibility is strength. Movement is life. Flow creates progress. Then there is the mountain. The mountain teaches perspective. At ground level, obstacles appear overwhelming. But from the mountaintop, the landscape changes. What seemed impossible appears manageable. What seemed confusing becomes clear. The mountain teaches us that wisdom often comes through elevation of consciousness. Sometimes the problem is not the problem. The problem is the perspective from which we are viewing the problem. Nature constantly invites us higher understanding, higher awareness, higher vision. Then there is the sun. The sun gives without discrimination. It shines upon the rich and the poor, the righteous and the unrighteous, the grateful and the ungrateful. The sun does not negotiate its purpose. It simply fulfills it. Every day, without applause, without recognition, without reward, the sun teaches purpose. The sun teaches consistency. The sun teaches service. Many people become discouraged because they seek immediate validation. Nature teaches something different. Fulfill your purpose because it is your purpose, not because someone else's notices. The sun keeps shining, the flower keeps blooming, the river keeps flowing, the stars keep glowing, whether anyone is watching or not. And then there are the seasons. Perhaps the greatest teacher of all, spring teaches hope, summer teaches growth, autumn teaches release, winter teaches a preparation. Each season contains wisdom. Each season contains necessity. Imagine if winter refused to leave, life would suffer. Imagine if autumn never arrived, nothing would be released. Imagine if spring never came, nothing new would emerge. The seasons teach timing. They teach acceptance. They teach trust. Not every season is meant for harvesting. Some seasons are for planting. Not every season is meant for expansion. Some seasons are for reflection. Not every season is meant for action. Some seasons are for preparation. Nature never apologizes for its seasons. Neither should you. The body itself is another teacher. Your heart teaches rhythm. Your lung teaches exchange. Your eyes teach perception. Your ears are teaching listening. Your hands teach creation. Every part of the body carries symbolic wisdom. Even the heartbeat speaks. Expansion, contraction, expansion, contraction. The rhythm mirrors the universe itself. Growth, rest, action, reflection, generation, operation, destruction. Again and again. The same pattern appears everywhere. Nothing in nature operates independently from the cycle. Everything participates. Everything contributes. Everything teaches. Once you begin seeing nature symbolically, life changes. The world becomes alive with meaning. A falling leaf becomes a lesson. A sunrise becomes a reminder. A storm becomes a teacher. A seed becomes a prophecy. The Creator begins speaking through everything. Not because nature becomes magical, but because your awareness expands. The wise do not merely study books. They study life. They study patterns. They study principles. They study creation itself. Because creation reveals the mind of its creator. And when you learn to read nature's language, you begin discovering truths that no classroom can fully teach. You begin seeing the generator in every beginning, the operator in every process, the destroyer in every transformation. You begin seeing the divine rhythm hidden beneath all things. And once that wisdom awakens, the world is never ordinary again. Every tree becomes a sermon. Every river becomes a lecture. Every mountain becomes a revelation. Every season becomes a chapter. And every day becomes an opportunity to learn from the greatest teacher that has ever existed, creation itself. Nature is God's silent classroom. Those who learn its language discover wisdom hidden in plain sight. Chapter 6. The Hidden Meaning of Scripture. For thousands of years, humanity have searched the Scriptures for answers. Some have searched for history. Some have searched for prophecy. Some have searched for laws. Some have searched for salvation. Yet there is another way of reading sacred texts, a deeper way, a symbolic way, a transformational way. What if the Scriptures are not only telling us what happened? What if they're also telling us what is happening? What if they are revealing eternal principles operating within every human being? The greatest wisdom teachers throughout history understood that sacred writings often speak in layers. One layer is literal, another layer is moral, another layer is spiritual, another layer is symbolic. The surface speaks to the eyes. The deeper meaning speaks to the soul. A person may read a passage 100 times and see only words. Then one day, through experience and understanding, those same words reveal an entirely new dimension. The text did not change. The reader changed. The Scriptures are often like a mirror. The depth you see depends upon the depth you bring. Consider the journey found throughout many sacred stories. And again, we encounter a familiar pattern. Something is called forth. Something is tested. Something is transformed. Generation, operation, destruction. The cycle appears repeatedly. A vision is generated. A process begins. An old condition is destroyed. A new reality emerges. The pattern is everywhere. Not because the stories are identical, but because life itself follows this rhythm. Many sacred narratives can be understood as maps of human consciousness. They reveal struggles we all face: fear, fate, doubt, courage, ignorance, wisdom, bondage, freedom. These battles are not merely external. They are internal. Every person carries an Egypt, a place of limitation, a place of bondage, a place where old habits keep them trapped. Every person must journey through a wilderness, a season of uncertainty, a season of testing, a season of growth. And every person seeks a promised land, a higher level of understanding, a greater expression of purpose, a fuller realization of potential. The story lives within us. The Scripture becomes personal. The words become alive. One of the most overlooked truths in sacred writings is that transformation almost always requires surrender. Something old must give away. Something old must be released. Something old must be destroyed. The generator calls forth a new possibility. The operator develops that possibility through experience. The destroyer removes what can no longer remain. The process can be seen throughout life. Old beliefs are challenged. Old fears are confronted. Old limitations are exposed. Old identities begin to crumble. At first, this feels uncomfortable. Sometimes it feels painful. But every great transformation carries discomfort. The caterpillar does not become a butterfly while remaining unchanged. The seed does not become a tree while remaining intact. Growth requires transformation. Transformation requires release. Release often feels like destruction. Scripture repeatedly teaches this principle. The old self must give way to the new self. Ignorance must give way to understanding. Fear must give way to faith. Division must give way to unity. Darkness must give way to light, not because one is being punished, but because one is evolving. One of the deepest symbolic lessons found in the sacred writings is the idea of light. Light appears again and again. Light represents awareness. Light represents understanding. Light represents consciousness. When light enters a room, darkness disappears. Not through struggle, not through conflict, simply through illumination. Likewise, when understanding enters the mind, confusion begins to dissolve. When wisdom enters the heart, fear begins to loosen its grip. When truth enters consciousness, limitation begins to weaken. Are y'all with me? The battle is not always between good and evil. Often the battle is between awareness and ignorance. The solution is not merely resistance. The solution is illumination. This is why wisdom has always been valued. Wisdom allows us to see what was previously hidden. Wisdom reveals patterns. Wisdom reveals causes. Wisdom reveals consequences. Wisdom reveals ourselves. And self-knowledge is one of the greatest forms of liberation. Many people spend years studying the world while never studying themselves. Yet the scriptures repeatedly point inward. Examine yourself. Know yourself. Renew your mind. Guard your heart. Seek understanding. These teachings are invitations to transformation. The generator has placed potential within every human being. The operator develops the potential through experience. The destroyer removes what obstacles the destroyer removes what obstructs that potential. This is not merely theology, it's life. The stories become mirrors. The characters become reflections. The journeys become our journeys. The battles become our battles. The victories become our victories. And suddenly, Scripture is no longer distant. It is immediate. It is living. It is active. It is relevant. The greatest mistake a person can make is believing that sacred wisdom belongs only to the past. Truth is timeless. Principles are timeless. Wisdom is timeless. The same laws that governed growth thousands of years ago governs growth today. The same principles that produce transformation then produces transformation now. The same cycle continues: generation, operation, destruction, renewal, again and again. This is why Scripture continues to speak across generations, not because it belongs to one era, but because it addresses eternal realities, the realities of the human soul, the realities of growth, the realities of purpose, the realities of transformation, the realities of our relationships with the divine. When read with wisdom, sacred writings become more than stories. They become maps, more than commandments. They become principles, more than history. They become mirrors. More than information, they become transformation. And perhaps that was always their purpose, not merely to tell us about God, but to help us recognize the generator, operator, and destroyer at work within our own lives. Not merely to teach us what happened a long time ago, but to awaken us to what is happening now. For the greatest scripture is not only the one written on pages, it is the one being written every day through the choices we make, the lessons we learn, and the transformation we allow. Sacred wisdom is not only meant to be read, it is meant to be lived. The deepest scripture is the transformation of consciousness itself. Chapter 7. The mind is a divine instrument. Among all the wonders of creation, few are as mysterious as the human mind. The mind has built cities. The mind has crossed oceans. The mind has created music, art, science, and civilization. The mind has imagined airplanes before they existed. The mind has envisioned skyscrapers before they touched the sky. The mind has dreamed of possibilities long before they became realities. Every great achievement begins in the invisible realm of thought. Before something appears in the world, it first appears in consciousness. This is why the mind is one of the greatest instruments ever given to humanity. The mind is not merely a container of thoughts. It is a workshop, a laboratory, a creative chamber, the gateway through which possibilities become realities. The generator works through the mind by producing ideas. Every invention begins as an idea. Every business begins as an idea. Every movement begins as an idea. Every book begins as an idea. Even the life that you're living today was influenced by thoughts you accepted yesterday. Thought is the seed. Experience is the harvest. Many people underestimate the power of thought because thoughts are invisible. Yet invisible forces often produce visible results. You cannot see gravity, yet you experience its effect. You cannot see the wind, yet you witness its movement. Likewise, you may not see thoughts, but their influence is undeniable. The quality of your thinking influences the quality of your life. Thoughts become choices. Choices become habits. Habits become character. Character becomes destiny. The generator plants possibilities within consciousness, but generations alone is not enough. Ideas are common. Execution is rare. Dreams are abundant. Discipline is uncommon. This is where the operator enters. The operator takes thought and develops it. The operator takes inspiration and turns it into action. The operator takes vision and converts it into consistent effort. Many people generate wonderful ideas. Few operate them effectively. Let's talk about it. A person may dream of writing a book. The generator provides the vision. The operator sits down and writes the pages. A person may dream of building a business. The generator provides the concept. The operator creates the systems. A person may dream of changing their life. The generator inspires the possibility. The operator develops the daily habits. The operator understands that success is rarely built in a moment. Success is built through repetition. One thought repeated becomes a belief. One action repeated becomes a habit. One habit repeated becomes a lifestyle. The operator works through consistency. The operator works through focus. The operator works through discipline. The operator works through persistence. Yet there is another force at work within the mind, the destroyer. Most people misunderstand destruction because they imagine loss. But within consciousness, destruction is often liberation. Old beliefs must be destroyed. False assumptions must be destroyed. Limiting thoughts must be destroyed. Fear-based narratives must be destroyed. A mind filled with outdated programming cannot fully embrace new possibilities. Imagine attempting to plant a garden in a soil crowded with weeds. The weeds compete for the nutrients. The weeds block growth. The weeds consume resources. The gardener must remove them, not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. Likewise, many people are attempting to create a better life while protecting destructive patterns of thinking. They desire abundance while nurturing scarcity. They desire confidence while rehearsing self-doubt. They desire peace while feeding anxiety. They desire growth while clinging to fear. The destroyer enters the consciousness to clear space, to remove falsehood, to challenge limitation, to expose illusion, to eliminate mental barriers. This process is not always comfortable. Many people become emotionally attached to beliefs that no longer serve them. Some inherit limiting beliefs from family, some inherit them from culture, some inherit them from painful experiences, some inherit them from failure, some beliefs become familiar. And familiarity often disguises itself as truth. But familiarity is not always truth. Just because a thought has lived in your mind for years does not mean it belongs there. The destroyer asks difficult questions. Is this belief true? Is this fear justified? Is this limitation real? Is this thought serving your highest good? The answer can be life-changing. Many breakthroughs occur not because someone learned something new, but because they released something false. The removal of error creates room for truth. The removal of fear creates room for courage. The removal of confusion creates room for clarity. The removal of limitation creates room for expansion. The mind operates according to whatever it repeatedly accepts. This is why intention is so powerful. Whatever receives your attention receives your energy. Whatever receives your energy grows. Focus on possibility, and possibility expands. Focus on opportunity, and opportunity becomes visible. Focus on fear, guess what? And fear gains strength. Focus on limitation, guess what? Limitation appears everywhere. The mind becomes what it repeatedly contemplates. This is why guarding your mind is essential. Not every thought deserves resonance. Not every opinion deserves acceptance. Not every fear deserves belief. Wisdom requires discernment. The generator introduces ideas. The operator develops useful ideas. The destroyer removes harmful ideas. Together they create mental transformation. The most powerful prison in the world is not made of steel. It is made of belief. Likewise, the most powerful freedom in the world often begins with new understanding. When the mind changes, perception changes. When perception changes, decisions change. When decisions change, outcomes change. Everything begins within. The outer world often reflects the inner world, not perfectly, not instantly, but consistently, enough to reveal a profound truth. Transformation begins in consciousness. The person who masters the mind gains access to one of the greatest powers available to humanity. Not control over others, control over self. And self-mastery is the foundation of every lasting achievement. The generator inspires vision. The operator develops vision. The destroyer removes mental obstacles to vision. This cycle continues throughout life. Again and again, higher understanding, higher awareness, higher expression. The mind was never meant to be a prison. It was meant to be an instrument, a sacred instrument, a creative instrument, a transformative instrument, an instrument through which divine potential becomes visible reality. When properly directed, the mind becomes a bridge between what is and what can be. And through that bridge, purpose walks into existence. The mind is the workshop of destiny. Guard what enters it, cultivate what strengthens it, and destroy what limits it. Chapter 8, The Power Within, Humanity. There's a question that has followed humanity throughout the ages. The question whispered in the temples, a question debated by philosophers, a question pondered by kings, prophets, teachers, laborers, and dreamers alike. What is man? What is humanity? What are we truly capable of becoming? Most people spend their lives searching for the power outside themselves. They search for it in money, status, titles, possessions. One of the greatest discoveries of human being is that some of the most important power already exists within us already. Not the power to dominate, not the power to control, but the power to create, the power to choose, the power to transform, the power to become. Every human being enters this world carrying possibility, not guaranteed success, not guaranteed wealth, not guaranteed comfort, but possibility. Now with me. Impossibility is one of the greatest gifts ever given. Within every child lies unrealized potential. Within every dreamer lies unrealized possibility. Within every person lies undiscovered capacity. The tragedy is not that people lack greatness. The tragedy is that many never discover the greatness they already possess. They spend their lives living beneath their potential, not because they were incapable, but because they never recognized what was within them. A diamond buried beneath the earth remains valuable whether anyone discovers it or not. Likewise, human potential exists whether it is recognized or ignored. The question is not whether potential exists. The question is whether it will be developed. This is where generator, operator, and destroyer become deeply personal. The generator plants potential within every person, talents, abilities, dreams, ideas, insights, purpose. These are seeds placed within consciousness, but seeds alone are not enough. Potential unused remains potential. A gift undeveloped remains dormant. A calling ignored remains silent. The operator enters to develop what has been given. The operator teaches practice, discipline, patience, commitment, dedication, and growth. Many people admire greatness while overlooking development. They celebrate the athlete, but ignore the years of training. They celebrate the musician, but ignore the countless hours of practice. They celebrate the leader, but ignore the years of preparation. The operator understands that greatness is cultivated. The seed becomes a tree through process. Potential becomes achievement through operation. But there's another step, destroyer. Because every great life requires the removal of obstacles. Self-doubt must be destroyed. Excuses must be destroyed. Fear, false evidence appear real. Fear must be destroyed. Limiting beliefs must be destroyed. Victimhood must be destroyed. Complacency must be destroyed. There are versions of ourselves that cannot accompany us into our next level of growth. They must be released. Not because they're evil, but because they are outdated. Imagine attempting to climb a mountain while carrying unnecessary weight. Every extra burden slows your progress. Eventually, wisdom teaches you to let go. Likewise, growth often requires release. The old mindset must give way. The old habits must give way. The old fears must give way. Only then can the higher version emerge. Humanity possesses extraordinary creative capacity. Look around. Everything built by human hands first existed in the human imagination. Every bridge, every invention, every book, every song, every movement, every company, every work of art, everything began with consciousness. The visible world is filled with evidence of invisible thought. The truth reveals something profound. The future is shaped by what people imagine today. Ideals shape civilizations, belief shapes culture, vision shapes history. Never underestimate the power of a single inspired mind. One idea can alter generations. One discovery can change the world. One courageous decision can redirect an entire family line. Many people feel insignificant because they compare themselves to others. But significance is not measured by comparison. It is measured by contribution. A candle does not compete with the sun. It simply fulfills its purpose. A tree does not compete with a river. It simply fulfills its purpose. Likewise, your responsibility is not to become someone else. Your responsibility is to become the highest version of yourself. Comparison distracts. Purpose focuses. Comparison weakens. Purpose strengthens. Comparison creates insecurity. Purpose creates clarity. The power within humanity is not merely individual, it's collective. Every generation inherits wisdom from those who came before. Every generation builds upon foundations already laid. Every generation becomes both student and teacher. This is how civilization advances. This is how knowledge survives. This is how legacy is created. Legacy is not simply what you leave behind. Legacy is what you leave with others. Money can be inherited. Property can be inherited. But wisdom can also be inherited. Courage can be inherited. Faith can be inherited. Principles can be inherited. Faith can be inherited. Vision can be inherited. The greatest inheritance often cannot be measured in dollars. It is measured in transformation. It is measured in transformation. A parent who teaches integrity leaves a legacy. A teacher who inspires learning leaves a legacy. A leader who empowers others leaves a legacy. A writer who awakens minds leaves a legacy. A person who serves humanity leaves a legacy. The impact continues long after the individual is gone. This is one of the greatest powers within humanity. The ability to influence the future. The ability to shape generations. The ability to contribute to something larger than one itself. Many people ask, what is my purpose? Purpose is often discovered through service. What problem are you called to solve? What gift are you called to share? What wisdom are you called to teach? What contribution are you called to make? Purpose often reveals itself when attention shifts from self-centered ambition to meaningful contribution. The river fulfills its purpose by flowing. The tree fulfills its purpose by growing. The sun fulfills its purpose by shining. Human beings fulfill purpose by expressing the highest within themselves for the benefit of others. The generator gives the vision. The operator develops the vision. The destroyer removes what blocks the vision. And through this process, human potential unfolds, not instantly, not effortlessly, but powerfully. Every generation faces challenges. Every generation faces uncertainty. Every generation faces obstacles. Yet every generation also contains visionaries, builders, teachers, healers, creators, leaders, people willing to discover the power within and use it to uplift others. Perhaps that is one of the greatest reasons humanity exists, not merely to survive, but to create, not merely to consume, but to contribute, not merely to exist, but to become wiser, to become stronger, to become more compassionate, to become more conscious, to become more aligned with the divine potential placed within. For hidden within every human being is a spark waiting to become a flame, a possibility waiting to become reality, a seed waiting to become a forest. And when that power is awakened, nurtured, and directed towards a purpose, there is no limit to the good that can flow through a single life. Your greatest power is not what you possess. Your greatest power is what you can become and what you can inspire others to become. Chapter 9, Becoming a Conscious Co-Creator. There comes a point in human development where awareness shifts. At first, life feels like something is happening to you. Circumstances arrive. People appear. Opportunities come and go. Losses occur. Victories happen. And you respond as if you're inside a current you did not choose. But something begins to change as understanding happens and deepens. You begin to notice patterns. You begin to recognize cycles. You begin to see cause and effect more clearly. And slowly, a realization emerges. You are not only a participant in life, you are a participant in creation. This is where responsibility awakens. Not blame, not guilt, but awareness. The awareness that thought, action, and intention are shaping experiences far more than previously understood. To become a conscious co-creator is to understand that life is not merely unfolding randomly. It is responding to attention, responding to belief, responding to discipline, responding to alignment. The generator within you produces possibility, ideas, insights, vision, intuition, moments of clarity that arrive without warning. These are not accidents, these are invitations. But an invitation alone does not build a life. Possibility must be acted upon. This is where the operator becomes essential. The operator is where intention becomes structure, where inspiration becomes plan, where vision becomes behavior, where desire becomes discipline. Many people remain trapped in cycles of inspiration without execution. They feel deeply. They think powerfully. They imagine vividly. But they do not build consistently. Without operation, generation remains incomplete. Yet even operation alone is not enough, because life also requires correction, adjustment, release, transformation. This is the role of the destroyer within conscious creation. The destroyer is not chaos. The destroyer is refinement. It is a courage to let go of what no longer serves your direction. Old habits, old environments, old identities, old fears, old beliefs that contradict your desired future. To create consciously is to accept not everything in your life can continue into your next level. Some things must be released deliberately, not in anger, not in confusion, but in clarity. A builder does not keep every broken tool. A gardener does not keep every diseased plant. A sculptor does not keep every unnecessary fragment of stone. Creation requires discernment. One of the greatest illusions is that growth is only additive, that becoming more always adding more. In truth, becoming often requires subtraction. Letting go creates space. And space is where new reality enters. Conscious co-creation is not about controlling every outcome. It is about aligning with principles that govern outcomes. The generator gives direction. The operator gives structure. The destroyer gives refinement. Together they form a cycle of intentional living. When these forces operate unconsciously, life feels chaotic. When they operate consciously, life begins to feel ordered and even during uncertainty. This does not mean difficulty disappears. It means difficulty gains meaning. Every challenge becomes information. Every delay becomes instruction. Every loss becomes redirection. Every ending becomes preparation. The co-creator learns to interpret life differently. Instead of asking only, why is this happening? They begin asking, what is this shaping in me? What is this preparing me for? What is this removing from my path? What is this revealing about my direction? These questions shift perception, and perception shapes response, and response shapes outcome. This is the hidden architect of transformation. Many people believe creation is about force, push harder, try harder, control more, but conscious creation is more about alignment than force. A river does not force its way to the ocean. It follows the shape of the land. It adapts, adjusts, and continues moving. Persistence is not aggression. Persistence is the alignment with direction. When a person aligns through behavior and purpose, life begins to respond differently. Opportunities appear that were previously unnoticed. Connections emerge that were previously unavailable. Solutions arise that were previously hidden. Not because the world changed, but because perception changed. Conscious co-creation is ultimately a shift in awareness. You begin to recognize that attention is a form of energy. Where attention goes, experience follows. If attention is scattered, life feels scattered. If attention is focused, life begins to organize around that focus. This is why discipline is not restriction. Discipline is direction. It is the operator aligning daily behavior with chosen intention. It is the bridge between vision and reality. But discipline alone cannot sustain transformation if identity remains unchanged. This is where the destroyer again plays a sacred role. Identity must evolve. The version of you that doubted must be released. The version of you that hesitated must be outgrown. The version of you that accepted limitation must be transformed. You cannot build a new life while fully maintaining an old identity. At some point, something must shift within. Not just what you do, but how you see yourself. Conscious co-creation requires self-recognition, not as something small and powerless, but as something capable of influence, growth, learning, and transformation. Not separate from life, but participating in it, not controlled by every circumstance, but responding with awareness. This is not fantasy, this is responsibility. The responsibility to engage life with intention. The responsibility to align action with purpose. The responsibility to release what contradicts growth. The generator within continues to speak through inspiration. The operator continues to build through action. The destroyer continues to clear through transformation. And when a person begins to cooperate with this cycle instead of resisting it, something profound happens. Life becomes less of a mystery and more of a practice. Not easy, but understandable. Not predictable, but meaningful. You begin to see that you are not separate from the process. You're a part of it, a living participant, and a greater unfolding intelligence. And once that awareness takes root, you can no longer view your life the same way, because you are no longer only reacting, you are participating consciously, intentionally, responsibly. When awareness aligns with action, and action aligns with purpose, life becomes a conscious act of creation rather than unconscious reaction. Chapter 10, The Kingdom Within. There is a question that has followed humanity through every age. Where is God? Some search in the sky, some search in sacred places, some search in ancient writings, some search in distant realms. But what if the answer has always been closer than expected? What if the kingdom is not only around you, but within you? Not as ego, not as fantasy, but as consciousness, as awareness, as a living field through which thought, intention, and transformation occur. The deepest realization in any spiritual journey is not that God is far away, is that life is happening through you, not just to you. This is the meaning of the kingdom within, a recognition that reality is not only external, it is also internal, and the internal shapes the external more than most people realize. The generator is within. It is the source of imagination, the origin of ideas, the spark of inspiration that appears before anything exists in physical form. No building is created without first appearing in mind. No invention is born without first appearing in mind. No invention is born without first appearing in thought. No path is walked without first being imagined. Creation begins inwardly. The operator is within. It is the discipline of execution, the structure of habits, the consistency of action, the ability to translate vision into reality through repeated effort. Without operation, imagination remains unfinished. Without structure, inspiration remains unstable. Without discipline, potential remains unused. The operator within builds what the generator reveals. But within the same inner kingdom, there is also the destroyer, the part of the consciousness that releases what no longer belongs, the awareness that recognizes when something must end for something new to begin, the courage to let go of identity, belief, habit, and attachment that blocks growth. The destroyer is not external punishment. It is internal refinement. It is the mind releasing limitation. It is the awareness dissolving illusion. It is the consciousness clearing space for evolution. These three forces are not distant concepts. They are active within every human being. Every day, every moment, every decision, a thought arises. That is a generation. An action is taken. That is operation. A pattern is released. That is destruction. And through this ongoing cycle, life continues to unfold. The kingdom within is not a place of escape. It is a place of engagement. It is where perception is formed, where meaning is interpreted, where direction is chosen, where identity is shaped, where transformation begins. Many people attempt to change their lives by focusing only on external conditions. Let's talk about it. Change the job, change the environment, change the relationship, change the circumstances. And while external change has its place, it often fails to produce lasting transformation if internal structure remains unchanged. Because wherever you go, you bring your inner kingdom with you. You take you with you, Theron, listener. Your thoughts, your beliefs, your habits, your interpretation, your inner patterns of response. These shape how you experience everything external. This is why two people can live in the same environment and have two completely different experiences. One sees limitation, the other sees opportunities. One sees obstacles, the other sees lessons. One sees endings, the other sees transitions. The difference is not the world. The difference is perception. Perception is formed within. To understand the kingdom within is to accept responsibility for inner alignment. Not perfection, but awareness. Awareness of what is being generated in thought. Awareness of what is being operated in behavior. Awareness of what is being destroyed in transformation. This awareness changes everything, because once you see the pattern, you can begin to participate in it consciously. You can begin to observe thoughts before they become beliefs. You can begin to observe habits before they become identity. You can begin to observe attachments before they become limitations. The inner kingdom becomes a place of observation, a choice, not automatic reaction, but conscious participation. This is where freedom begins. Not freedom from responsibility, but freedom through responsibility. Freedom to choose what you cultivate within. Freedom to choose what you release. Freedom to choose what you strengthen. Freedom to choose what you no longer allow to shape your direction. The generator within can be guided. Ideas can be selected. Attention can be directed. Imagination can be trained. The operator within can be disciplined. Habits can be formed. Systems can be built. Consistency can be developed. The destroyer within can be trusted. Old identities can be released. Limiting beliefs can be removed. Unnecessary burdens can be let go. The kingdom within is not passive, it's active, it is dynamic. It is constantly shaping the outer world through inner alignment. This is why personal transformation is not simply about learning new information, it is about becoming aware of inner processes and choosing to engage them differently. Over time, this awareness produces a shift. Life begins to feel less like chaos and more like process, less like confusion, more like unfolding, less like randomness and more like a rhythm. Not because external challenges disappear, but because internal understanding deepens. You begin to recognize that your life is not separate from your consciousness, it's an expression of it. And when that realization takes root, something fundamental changes. You stop waiting for life to change you, and you begin participating in how life is formed through you. This is the kingdom within, a living space of creation, a living space of discipline, a living space of transformation, a living space where generator, operator, and destroyer are not distant forces, but present realities within the architecture of consciousness itself. The kingdom is not something you enter, it's something you recognize within yourself. And once you recognize it, you begin to govern your life from within instead of reacting to life from without. Chapter 11, The Eternal Cycle of God. Every journey eventually arrives at a point of return. Not a return backwards, but a return to understanding, a return to simplicity, a return to truth that was always present but not always recognized. This is that moment. At the beginning of this book, 3 principles were introduced: generator, operator, destroyer. At first, they may have seemed like separate ideas, 3 forces, 3 roles, 3 expressions of divine intelligence. But as understanding deepens, something becomes clear. They were never separate. They were only one movement, one cycle, one intelligence expressing itself in different phases of reality. The generator is not apart from the operator. The operator is not apart from the generator. The destroyer is not apart from the generator. They are not 3 gods. There are 3 expressions of one unfolding process. Look at nature again. A seed becomes a tree. A seed is not separate from the tree. It is the tree in potential form. The tree is not separate from the fruit. It is the tree in expression form. The fruit is not separate from the soil it turns to. It is a tree in transformation form. Everything returns, everything transforms, everything continues. Nothing is truly lost, only change. This is eternal cycle, generation, operation, destruction. Not as the beginning, middle, and end, but as a continuous motion, a living rhythm behind all existence. Now look at human life. An idea appears. It is generated, developed, operated. It is challenged, refined, and released. It is destroyed in its old form, and something new emerges again and again and again. This is not occasional, it is constant. It is the structure of experience itself. Now look inward. A thought arises. You observe it. You respond to it. You release it. Another thought arises. The cycle continues within consciousness. Even your mind is participating in an internal rhythm. This is why peace is not found by stopping life. Peace is found by understanding life. When you understand the cycle, you stop resisting it. You stop labeling every ending as failure. You stop labeling every delay as punishment. You stop labeling every challenge as abandonment. Instead, you begin to see movement, transformation, process, becoming. The eternal cycle does not break, it only changes form. What appears as destruction is often preparation. What appears as loss is often transition. What appears as silence is often incubation. What appears as ending is often hidden beginning. But understanding this intellection is not enough. It must be lived. Because life will continue to present cycles. You will still experience beginnings. You will still experience maintenance. You will still experience endings. But your relationships to them will change. You will no longer be shocked by change. You will no longer be crushed by transition. You will no longer be confused by movement. You will begin to recognize patterns beneath experience. And pattern brings stability even in instability. This is the deeper meaning of mastery. Not control over life, but understanding of life. Not domination of experience, but alignment with experience. Not resistance to change, but cooperation with change. The generator teaches you that life begins within. The operator teaches you that life is sustained through action. The destroyer teaches you that life evolves through release. And the eternal cycle teaches you that all three are always happening simultaneously at different levels of existence. Even now, in your thoughts, in your decisions, in your awareness, creation is happening. Maintenance is happening. Transformation is happening. You're not outside this process. You're inside it. Not as a passive observer, but as an active participant. This is the deepest realization of all, that existence is not something you watch, it is something you engage. And more than that, it is something that you influence through consciousness itself. This does not make you separate from God. It places you within the expressions of divine intelligence, not above life, not below life, but within life, flowing with it, shaping it, experiencing it, learning through it. The eternal cycle of God is not a theory, it's not a philosophy, it's not merely a teaching. It is a pattern that reveals itself in everything that exists. Stars are born, stars burn, stars collapse, galaxies form, galaxies evolve, galaxies fade, civilizations rise, civilizations flourish, civilizations fall. But existence continues, consciousness continues, the cycle continues, Theron, listener. And through it all, something remains unchanged, the intelligence behind it, the awareness behind it, the source from which all cycles emerge. Call it God, call it consciousness, call it source, call it truth. The name matters less than the recognition that behind every beginning, every process, and every ending, there is a constant principle of unfolding reality, generator, operator, destroyer, eternal cycle, eternal movement, eternal becoming. And once this is seen clearly, something within you relaxes. The need to force understanding fades. The need to control every outcome softens. The need to resist change dissolves because you realize something simple but profound. You are part of something that has never stopped moving correctly. Even when it does not feel understandable, even when it does not feel comfortable, even when it does not feel predictable, the cycle continues. So do you. Final legacy truth. Nothing is truly ending. Nothing is truly beginning. Everything is continuously becoming through the eternal cycle of generator, operator, and destroyer. This is Theron Collins. Today's Friday, June the 19th, 2026. May God bless you and your family. Thank you for listening.